Mr. He, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
What then is your outlook for China's economic growth this year? What sectors do you think are going to provide new vigor to China's economy? What do you think of China's role in global economic growth?
Generally speaking, looking into the future of China's economy for 2024, I am cautiously optimistic. First, optimistic, because we see clearly, especially from the latter half of 2023, there has been a good tendency of strengthening, gaining momentum in the economy. That will continue. And last year we got a 5.2% GDP growth, which was okay. Yeah, I shouldn't say it's remarkable. And this shows that recovery trend continues and will continue. So based on that trend, I'm optimistic. And I'm cautious. Why? We have a lot of problems and difficulties. We have to tackle those difficulties and have a good solution before we can have a stronger, more sustainable growth in the future. So cautiously optimistic. Last year we had a GDP growth of 5.2%, but that was on a low base of 2022, which had only 3.0% GDP growth. So 2-year average was 4.1%. So the previous 2 years, 2020, 2021, we had an average annual growth rate of 5.2%. So 1 percentage point down. And let's move further. 2019, before the pre-pandemic year, and before 2020, 2021, the growth rate was 6.0%. So we have to move out that bottom, drive back to 5% as estimated by many provincial People's Congress. We have to do a lot of hard work. I think at least we have to tackle 3 basic issues, difficulties. First, inadequate demand, excessive capacity, and weakening anticipation. We see that the industrial capacity utilization rate during the last quarter of 2023 was 75.9%, which was not high. So we have to tackle that problem. The second, difficulties in property market and in the local government debt issues. We have to have good further solution to that. The third one is we have to improve our import and export performance. Although we had, in terms of renminbi, we had a slightly positive growth. However, if we calculate in dollar terms, it's a negative growth. We have to change that situation, try to change that situation this year. So 3 problems, 3 difficulties we must tackle. Then I think there are many bright sides, bright prospects. The first is new emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, electrical vehicles, and solar panels. Especially we have been very strong in the application of the big data and the internet application of industry, trade, and commerce. So that will continue. We have to seek new high growth point for this year. And this year we had to, another point is we have seen slight sign of improvement in our foreign trade and foreign investments. So this might constitute a more positive growth factor for our growth in 2024. Anyway, we have difficulties, we have good prospects. Still, we are trying our best to hit a higher growth rate.
You had previously served as the economic commercial counselor at the consulates in San Francisco and New York. This year, the United States and China are celebrating 45 years of diplomatic ties. In terms of the relationship, in terms again of trade and such things, what do you see as some of the challenges and the things that have changed and things that remain unchanged?
That's interesting. What has changed? What has not changed? I think China-U.S. bilateral relations have changed tremendously over the past 45 years, especially over the recent years. Now our relationship was experiencing a free fall for the last 2 years, starting from Donald Trump's administration. Still, there have been some slight stabilization, and then before moving down again. So last year, 2023, we saw a gradual stabilization, a soft landing in our relations. If I can call it a soft landing, especially stabilization, and then very slight improvement. So that's good. We try to move further. I think the 45 years history of China-U.S. relationship has proved that we must stick to the 3 basic principles between our relationship. First, the one China. Because when we set up our diplomatic tie, the government of the United States acknowledges there's only one China and Taiwan is part of China. And the government of People's Republic of China is the only legitimate representative of China. So based on that, we can have a stable relationship. Now, much of the number one topic between the high-level talks and between the 2 presidents is the one China. I think now we are managing that issue. The second is mutual respect. We set up our relationship on the basis of peaceful coexistence. That means we don't share a social system, don't share value, don't share ideologies. That's quite common in the world because we have over 200 countries and regions in the world, and they differ tremendously from country to country. So what's to be done? Can we only cooperate when we share the same value? No, not necessary. We can keep our different values, keep our different system. However, that should not affect our state-to-state relations. The state-to-state relations should respect each other, mutual respect of sovereignty and territorial integrity and non-interference of each other's internal affairs. And then we try to seek mutual benefit, cooperation for mutual benefit. If we can set up our relationship on this basis, the relation will be stable. That's what stated when China and United States set up diplomatic tie. The third is we encourage our business community to cooperate for the good for our 2 peoples. So if we stick to our 3 principles, the foundation, I'm quite optimistic that our relationship will improve. And as far as the trade is concerned, the biggest problem, I think, is the cognition of Washington, asserting China as the only country that both has the will and ability to change rule-based international order. Therefore, China poses the greatest geopolitical challenge to the United States. So all the U.S.-China policy is based on that cognition, that strategy. So China is the largest strategic rival to the U.S., threatening to the U.S. the dominance. So proceeding from this point, there have been a lot of policies to China. That's national security. They must block or restrict high-tech export to China, or to restrict China's investment in the U.S. or U.S. investment in China, in order not to let China have the high technology threatening to the U.S. security. Because national security is a very broad concept. You can apply extensively. For instance, Huawei. Then you say Huawei is a threat to national security, although it's not. Then if you explain that way, that will apply to a lot of trade issues and will affect our trade. Although Secretary Gina Raimondo said they want to keep a small yard with a high fence, but the small yard is not small; it's huge. Yeah, it applies tremendous to many products. So important thing is, I'm very glad that our two governments sit down together. They have very good institutional dialogues from the top, then to the minister level, to the vice minister level, to the director level, and to the business level as well. So if we can keep this good functioning of this institution and shoot practical issues, I'm sure that we can keep our bilateral relationship stable. And hopefully a slight improvement. I'm also glad to see that China-US bilateral trade had witnessed some slight improvement during the last quarter of 2023. And US-China exports also had positive growth, very slight. So we hope that the improvement could continue and could enlarge this year so as to make a good foundation for our two peoples, not only for our two governments, but also for our two peoples.
So what then is your prediction for the global economy in 2024? What is your view then of the so-called de-risking and reducing reliance?
I think the global economy is at the turn of the 2023 and 2024, there has been a general pessimistic mood among the major international organizations when estimating the world's economy for 2024. The World Bank just released a report that's very interesting, estimating that this year's global GDP growth will be even lower than last year. Last year it was 22.6, and this year might be 2.4%. Having said that, we see that from 2020 to 2024, 5 years, that's first half of the 2020s decade. The first half will see the lowest growth rate in 30 years, the poorest performance in 30 years. And the chief economist of the World Bank, Mr. Joe, said the decade of 2020 will probably a decade of waste if there's no major track correction. That means there's a serious problem. If we look just at the growth rate, the growth rate will be slow, 2.4% or around that. There has been a wide divergence. The developed economies will grow slowly, slower than developing economies. Among developed economies, the United States will perform better than Europe and than Japan. Among developing economies, the most difficult, vulnerable economies will be low-income developing economies. They will continue to suffer from the debt distress. I think the debt distress will be a major challenge facing the developing economies. And it will continue this year. So that will make the world very difficult. And also, apart from the economic factors, the more important is the political factors. That's geopolitical tensions, geopolitical segmentation. And because of that, there is a growing geoeconomic fragmentation. Because of the friendshoring and because of the supply chain resilience based on values. It looks like that global supply chain is moving towards politically alike countries. So that will be against the economic law, because the economic law calls for the world widest supply chain based on the best allocation of resources for the highest productivity, the highest benefits. But the political concept is different. For security, for political value, the supply chain will be split or will be at least disrupted. So that will cause world trade and world economy very difficult. That might be a fundamental reason for the slow growth and difficulty in the world economy for 2024 and for the earlier part of 20th decade. So we hope that the world will work together. Just as the Davos annual meeting called for rebuild trust, that we will talk. We should work together to uphold multilateralism, global cooperation. If we differ in value, if we differ in political systems, we still can cooperate economically to keep the supply chain complete so as to make it more beneficial for both developed and developing countries, more beneficial for both the US and for China.
How do you see China's potential in the upcoming future in terms of attracting foreign investment? And what do you think it can do to really enhance the confidence of foreign investors?
This is a very good question. We have to improve our investment environment, open our door further, wider, to welcome world capital and to provide the good law protection and to encourage equal, fair competition among domestic and foreign players. There should be no discrimination, should be fair treatment to all the companies in China, be them SOEs, private or foreign, so as to let the foreign investors have the confidence that they will enjoy fair treatment in China. That we have to work hard on this. And another reason I think, as I mentioned, because of world geo-economic fragmentation and geopolitical tension, which has disrupted supply chain and disrupted the flow of capital. And of course, we should also say that over time, the global capital should be confident on China, in China, because China has a large economy. Although we have difficulties, our economy is still growing. If the exchange rate between renminbi and the dollar return back to normal years, or $1 to 6.7 renminbi, then China's will grow, the economy will grow by $1 trillion per year. That will provide more markets, more opportunity to world capital, to world investors. And that's one point. And also China is a very important part in the global supply chain. And especially China is a good player in the new emerging technologies, which will decide the future of the world. Artificial intelligence, robots, industrial robots, and quantum computing, and big data, and new energy, electrical vehicles, and so on and so forth. And I think the world investor can find plenty of opportunity in China. This not only for China, if they invest in China and have become a part of the global supply chain, they will also benefit when we export to the other parts of the world. They will also benefit, such as Tesla and so on. So China is a part of the world market. If they invest in China and we handle our investment environment correctly, I'm sure that foreign players can succeed. They can increase their value and their profits and their scale, both in China and in the world.
China has, again, shown strength in certain areas, for instance, electric vehicles, solar. What would you say then about the development of the strategy for these Chinese companies that are seeking to go global?
Yes, I think if you want to be successful, you should not only succeed in China, you must succeed in the world. If we look at the leading successful global economies, for the Google, Amazon, the Microsoft, Tesla, they are not only American companies, they are world companies. They're very successful in the world market. So it's clear we must be successful globally. Then how can we do that? First, I think the company should have their own technology, good technology, not only just borrowing from others that will not go far. They have their indigenous technology, different from others, have their comparative advantage, so as they can have their part in the market. Second, they must cooperate successfully with the world players, not only with American companies, but also with European companies and then anywhere. So the companies should have their overall global strategy before they move. They have a good plan. They have the global vision, and they find their location, which part of the world, and then how they move on. Then in that case, they should set out their investment plan or operation plan based on the real economic and social needs of the target market, not only by their own needs, but predominantly by their own needs, local needs, economic and social needs of the target market, and meet their needs so that they can survive. And in this sense, they should cooperate with the local players. They should cooperate with the local governments, cooperate with the local law firms, banks, and so on and so forth, and also international players, becoming a part of the local society. Also, they should, I think, if a company, if they want to be global, they must become local. If they set up in the United States, they must become an American company. If they set up in Germany, they must become a German company. In my service during in San Francisco or in New York, we worked with a lot of Chinese companies who are operating in the States or trying to set up in the States. We often advise them, if they want to set up in the States, you must become an American company. You should not say we are a Chinese company. Of course, you have your mother company is China. Still, if you sit down on the American soil, you must become an American soil company. You must follow all the local laws, regulations, and have a thorough study of the market condition, economic situation, how you can exist, how you can expand, how you can benefit the local people so as you can survive and you can grow. So we highly encourage that you should go and become a local company. If our companies want to go to the United States, first of all, you should not go to Washington. You should go to the States. Because you do not operate in DC. You're operating in the local. You should go to the grassroots, to state governments or county or city or even lower level. Work with the local governments, with local advisory, the consultant companies, and have a thorough study, investigation, what the market needs, what the people need there. You should offer what they need, so as you succeed, they succeed. So that you should become localized, and should not just look up, look down, to grassroots, work closely with them, be friendly with them, and work together and get benefits with them. They benefit, you benefit, so as you can deep-root it in that part of the market and grow. If you succeed in this market, in the American market, say in California, and then in Michigan, and then in Europe, and then in the Middle East, you become a global company. Without that solid work, grassroots work, you will get nothing. Slogans solve nothing. You should get hard work. Become really a local company before you become a global company.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be with you today.